Hello and welcome. My name is Sera, and I'm glad you're considering taking lessons with me today. This is one of a series of 3 videos that I've made for each of the instruments that I'm available to teach and perform on. So this video is going to focus on the bass guitar. Now, a lot of modern players sometimes cringe at the name bass guitar. They prefer just bass or electric bass. And this is true, electric bass is a good name too. I think it's important though to simply distinguish it from its parent instruments, because one of its parent instruments, the string bass, is a very different instrument altogether. And sometimes there's a lot of confusion if you don't add some sort of clarifier to that. So the bass guitar, where did it come from? Well, it came from basically an experiment in the 1940s and 50s. Les Paul had just created the first solid body electric guitar. And what this did was it eliminated a lot of the acoustic guitar's problems, allowing it to be played louder. Leo Fender, after creating his own version of it, decided that he wanted to create a new instrument. The bass guitar, the string bass, was a bulky instrument. It was subject to even more feedback problems than the acoustic guitar was, or the hollow body electric guitar was. And his idea was to create a bass instrument that people could play easier with the use of frets, and as well as being able to play it more precise and be able to have more control over the volume of the instrument using an amplifier, the same way that the electric guitar was becoming popular. And so this very first instrument was called a precision bass, but it was also sometimes called a Fender bass. Eventually, more brands caught on, and it became the incredibly popular bass instrument that we know today. So the parts of the instrument are very similar to its parent guitar. The difference being is that its basic 4-stringed model uses the same string tuning of the string bass. You'll notice that this is a 5-string model. The only major difference is it has an additional string lower than a standard 4-string bass. And this comes from the older string basses would often sometimes have a low 5-string for certain pieces. It was tuned much the same way, and that became standardized around the late 1800s. You'll also see higher stringed instruments. You'll sometimes see 6- and 7-string instruments for those of a more advanced or even just esoteric flair. So the parts of the instrument. Like any stringed instrument, a vibrating string is the core of its sound, and you have to do that by creating 2 cutoff points where a string is stretched to a certain tension. The tuning pegs machines are very similar. They're kind of a hybrid in most instruments between the string bass tuning pegs and a guitar tuning pegs, but you'll often see that the string wraps around the inside mechanism for more stability. So we sometimes call this area the head, or a headstock if we're talking specifically about the design of the head. Next, the string travels down and is stopped at this point with something we call a nut, which is sometimes plastic or mother of pearl or ivory. And all this really is it has some grooves to be able to hold the instrument down into a breaking point. The strings then go down a neck going all the way down here. Underneath the strings we have a fingerboard, which is usually made of a slightly different wood, or sometimes called a fretboard. As I mentioned, Leo Fender's big innovation to making basses easier to play was to add the frets of a guitar. So you'll see fret wires that are tuned to specific tunings all throughout the neck. You'll see different designs which are mostly helpful in creating a placeholder for your eye as you go up the neck. Those dots are typically replicated along the side of the instrument as well. And you'll see various designs as well as the octave mark too. Occasionally you'll see an electric instrument with 2 octaves, as mine has. That's mostly just for advanced soloing techniques. The strings then go down further into the body. They cross over a few magnetic pickups which are used to transmit the sound. There are several different styles of pickups. These are what we call humbucking pickups. They're based off of a design that was created to minimize loud hums or feedbacks. But you'll also see a split pickup, which is we call a precision pickup, or a thin bar, a jazz pickup. And the strings end at a bridge, and the metallic bridge of an electric bass usually will have some sort of spring or through body mechanism to help you control the intonation better. Down here we'll have some knobs as well. Usually one of your knobs is for volume. You'll have a pickup selecting knob, which replaces the pickup switch that you'll typically see on an electric guitar. It'll allow you to blend different tones from different parts of the instrument. That's more of a subtle, more advanced sort of, more of a song performance thing. And this particular instrument will have a few additional knobs, such as you'll see a tone knob, like one knob, or in this case you'll see a bass, mid, and treble knob. This is simply because there's a battery backup in this particular instrument and a battery case right here. And this is simply to give more power. There's a 9-volt battery in here, which if your instrument does have a 9-volt battery in it, you'll want to make absolutely sure that your cable is not staying plugged in all the time, because the second that cable gets plugged in, regardless of any notes being played or not played, it will drain battery power. So from there, your power jack goes out into an amplifier, which mine is off camera right now. But a basic amplifier will have several different knobs, but the most important one for now is your volume and your gain knobs, and your gain is simply another type of volume knob. Most instruments at your level, your practice level, will give you simply all of your knobs will be connected to your speaker. This is simply just for simplicity's sake. You'll want to make sure that you can control some of these. You can play around with the other knobs, it's not going to hurt anything, but the only major difference is simply the quality of tone you'll get. And that's most of the basics of the instrument, where it comes from. But I do want to make an additional side note, because this is a common debate among electric bassists. The question is to pick or to fingers? Essentially, when Leo Fender created the instrument, he really wasn't thinking much about it, but as rock became the major point for electric bass, the question of whether to use a guitar peg came into play. Many people who were transitioning from the string bass thought that the tone that you got that was similar to a jazz tone of came best from being able to use a 2-finger plucking technique, or even, as time went along, a 3-finger technique. Rock guitarists kind of decided, hey, it's a different sound quality to it. I'm kind of the mindset that as long as you learn the most basic technique for finger plucking, I'm not going to object to you using a pick. Obviously, I use one. I typically use a variety of thumb pick that allows me to use both techniques at any given time. But the pick obviously has to come off for one of the most famous pick sounding techniques, which is the slap style. Which I can show you that as well. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So the question of whether or not to pick, don't let anyone get you down if you want to pick or don't want to pick. I can show you either way, or both ways, simply whichever ones work best for you. And finally, I'm going to leave you with a little technique exercise that hopefully should be able to get your hands strengthened up before our first meeting. What I think you should do is find a point on your instrument. This is especially important for younger players who may be playing bigger instruments. Find a point where you can hold all 4 fingers down side by side, one on each fret. Younger players may even find that the easiest place to do this is at the octave spot, which is as the part where there will be 2 dots or some other decoration, 12 frets up. And simply you want to be able to play each note one at a time, being able to place your finger from one note onto the next before going up to the next string. And then coming back down. If you have additional strings, go ahead and use them. Eventually you'll want to be able to continue using this as a warm-up exercise until you can play this exact same thing all the way at the lowest note position. real stretch down here. It's a real stretch, but if you can manage to get that going, it'll be a great warm-up exercise, and it'll especially useful for you to get a consistent sound out of each fingered note. One more important piece to remember while you're doing this is to use your thumb at the back of the neck to help support it. It'll help you squeeze the note better and get a cleaner note. Hopefully I've been able to get you started. I look forward to hearing from you soon. You can give me a call or shoot me an email at any time. And I can certainly answer any additional questions you may have before your first lesson. Thank you very much, and thank you for watching.